procedural motion to return to agenda item 3.1.2, please. Moved Councillor Gleeson, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you, Councillor Arthur. Okay, Vlad has some advice for us for agenda item 3.1.2, the works completion time.
Yes, through you, Mayor. The works completion time was in the contract and is stipulated as 1st of December 2021. The works will be completed by.
For councillors, for mine, that's a realistic expectation because that hopefully is precluding the wet season, the shutdown period, and it's actually not that long. Like today's the 15th of September, so that there's a number of little roads there, quite a bit of work. So I'm comfortable with that. Do we have a resolution to accept the officer's recommendation?
I'll move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Peoples moves, Councillor Hanson seconds. Is there debate? Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. 6-0. Thank you, Councillor Peoples. Vlad, you have information regarding the works completion for the submitted tender here.
That's exactly the same as the other one.
Thank you. I just had to differentiate because Councillor Peoples had a PCO. So my comments are the same as they were for the previous resolution. That's a suitable period of time for mine. Does anyone?
I'll move that.
Councillor Plum moves, Councillor Hanson seconds. Those in favour? 5-0. We can now, can I have a motion please to return to agenda item 3.3.5, please. Councillor Gleeson, Councillor Rogers seconds. Those in favour? Carried 5-0. We can return those two to the room, please.
So, can I just ask a question? What happens if we get to the 1st of December and it's not done? What happens?
That's a question for officers to work out about compliance with tenders for future submissions. You have a report here that details a letter from the President of LGAQ. Councillors, remember I gave you an update at the last meeting about an address that I was invited to give at the Yeppoon conference for climate resilient councils. That has subsequently resulted in an invitation to join. I don't know that we're unique, but an invitation to join that grouping.
5 councils.
Yeah, so there's been 5 others invited to join. For my sentiments, for what it's worth, it's extremely good exercise for us to participate in, and it keeps us networking and communicating with councils that are as equally affected by climatic change as we are, just in a different way. It just keeps the narrative a little bit less on purely coastal issues around large councils and keeps the perspective around this balanced on the fact that large area, low population local government areas are substantially affected as well. The only implications here is the time, which will be predominantly mine. So I'm happy to commit that. Councillor Peoples.
I'll move the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Oh. I expected debate from you on that. No, fair enough.
No.
Councillor Hanson will second that. Any further questions? Those in favour? Motion is carried 7-0. LGAQ conference Mackay. Who would like to attend?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to attend that.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Anyone else? Councillor Gleeson. administration.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just say, I'd recommend, I went last year in the first year and it opened my eyes up to the LGAQ and some of our responsibilities and that as councillors. Up until then, I sort of looked on it as a single councillor in a small rural remote council, but it gives you an appreciation of the bigger beast that we're a part of, for want of a better term.
So,
I'm waiting on a works program, so I can't commit at the
all
moment.
right. So let's. So, Councillor, can we suggest here that we add Councillor Rogers as the delegate alongside myself, the Mayor and Deputy Mayor? Councillor Rogers, you're a solid commitment to go.
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Okay, and then in the observers, I'm going to start with Councillor Gleeson. Acting CEO Brett Walsh. Councillors. Plum, are you in? Don't know, maybe.
Yeah. No, I'll step out because we've got all these community things coming up.
Right, thank you. Councillor Arthur.
Oh, Mr Mayor, I'll say no at this stage, but if it gets to the point where others aren't available, I'd be happy to go.
Or there's a substitute required.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm on a maybe, depending on the works program.
Councillor Peoples.
I'm the same as Councillor Arthur, if you're short, and, but I went last year, so I'm letting others have the opportunity this year.
So let's leave it at that indication then. We've got Dillon and Rogers as delegates, Gleeson and Walsh as observers. That's our resolution. Somebody move that, please. Councillor Arthur moves. Councillor Plum seconds. Those in favour? 7-0. Councillors will confirm travel and accommodation closer to it. At this stage, we'll be driving. We'll drive over on the Sunday afternoon, home on the, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday, but we'll work that out in time to come. 337. Okay, before we go through the identified changes here, could I ask officers to please go to Appendix A on page 6? No? No, apologies, sorry, it's not there. Right, will throw me out the window, I'll find it. It's an unhighlighted change that I just want to clarify. It's the $500 limit for vendor panel utilisation.
That is on page 6.
It is on page 6, I thought so. Yeah, right on F. Officers comfortable, that's what the policy says currently, yes I know that, but is that what's actually occurring, or is $1,000 being used as the threshold, not 500?
The policy was $1,000, and at the last review it was reduced to 500.
I apologise in advance now because I obviously have got too old and slow, so I can't remember that. Can someone enlighten me as to why we did that? Was it one of us that requested it? God help somebody who watches a video and says it was me, because I honestly have no recollection of it. So does that make that cumbersome? Is it simpler if it's 1,000? Are we worried about what is it?
What are we waiting?
Page 6, item F is what we're discussing.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, what it was 1,000. Is the officers got a problem with 1,000? I can't remember.
No, I just want to know that seems like a really low figure. Like, is 1,000? Would that make the system easier if you need something for $1,000, you get one quote, you go and get it? Is that, or I'm after advice. I don't do any of this, so I don't know.
To use now, I would probably say that is agreed, and I think that the $1,000 is in line with the delegations authorities for people to requisition up to 1,000. I think that's what was brought into line.
Councillors, your thoughts? So officers would foresee no problem if that went from 500 back to 1,000.
Jim's saying no, I don't see any objection.
It was 1,000 and I just can't remember why it was reduced to 500.
It's not working, we reduced though, is it?
No, you
It's
still,
just put to us to be 500, we're still working on 1,000,
the current policy on our website has 500 though. Yeah, that's what made me
We're
ask.
still working.
That's-
we're still working on
She's
1,000.
saying
Yeah.
we're still working on 1,000, but we do ensure, because we have in our town more businesses that provide the
The
similar
same
services, we are still getting the quotes, it's just not going through vendor panel. So
Which is not required until it hits $1,000 anyway,
that's right,
or 500
but
technically.
because it's easy to obtain verbal quotes,
Mm.
the staff are still complying with that.
Councillors, would you mind? Are you comfortable if we take that back to 1,000? Like we would purchase an absolute untold quantity of equipment under 500, under 1,000. By halving that to 500, I think we're putting stuff on vendor panel is going to make it slow. Like if somebody needs, I don't know, a pallet of cement's probably a good example. Would normally retail somewhere between $700 and $1,000. Every time someone needs a pallet of cement, if they've got to go on vendor panel, that's potentially 3, 4, 5 days, as opposed to going to one of the suppliers who's got it reasonably close, quick, get it, go.
I think it's unrealistic to be at $500 for a business like we run.
I'm happy to go back to 1,000.
Councillor Rogers, your sentiments around that?
I'm happy to take it back to 1,000, Mr Mayor.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do that, please. We just change that figure less than 1,000 instead of less than 500. Unless Brett thinks there's something here in the next 20 minutes while we're discussing the rest of it. Righto, let's go back to the start then, because the rest are all the changes. Well, that's not a change. That's for pick up. The rest are highlighted in yellow, I believe. Changes on pages 2 and 3 of that policy look purely procedural, really. It'll have no practical impact on procurement from a supplier or goods or services point of view, will it?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just checking. So that was August 2020 is when it was changed to 500. So it was this time last year.
Last time I had a call.
But yeah, it's up to council. $1,000 definitely makes it easier. More workable.
Well, it's one less change to implement, Brett. Like if we're practically still using 1,000 as the threshold, let's just stay with the status quo. Sometimes you institute change to reflect a policy direction, sometimes you change policy to reflect practicality. So in this case, I'd suggest that's the latter. All right, so these changes on pages 2 and 3, Brett, are purely procedural stuff, really. They're not going to affect suppliers, are they? They have no practical impact on, we're talking delegations.
So in terms of delegations, Mr Mayor, we've removed the delegations from this policy because we have a delegations register, and the delegations register is really where the delegation should be. So this policy refers to the delegations register. So that's really just a procedural change.
And the evaluation of offers, what we've done previously is we've always bought purchases in excess of 200,000 back to council technically under our existing delegations register, that wasn't strictly required. However, for political reasons and plain good common sense, those big values have been brought back. So that's now written in the policy, which will need to be clarified in the tenders in the delegations register when we undertake the review of that in time to come. The details for the evaluation process of contracts over 200,000. This is around public availability and compliance.
So there were privacy issues with releasing details. We need to make it clear in all our procurement that the successful tenderers, the details will be made known to the other tenderers or quoters. So they are aware of it.
To go back to the top of that page with the quotes, vendor panel must be used, obtained. Have you got to change that?
Yes.
500 there to 1,000? That's same on. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, that's
Good pick up. And then the 48-hour period being inserted.
Well, just to give more time, because especially if it's a council meeting day, to give 24 hours notice, it does make it difficult. So it just gives us an extra day to inform tenderers.
So what I see here on page 5, the insertion of the word successfully under incumbency, that has allowed for supervisors if a piece of plant or a provider of wet plant hire is not currently successfully undertaking the work, then they wouldn't receive any points in that.
That's right, because you could be the current, the incumbent, but not doing a good job, but you still get the 1 point.
Which could be the difference to tip you over the line.
Okay.
That if the plant, for example, is not living up to the expectation, or if a bigger, smaller, the operator's not doing their job, the availability, if it's constantly getting broken down, or so I think that's a good insertion. Just going back a page, just to really clarify, we did discuss this in the review 2 months ago. The plant the plant purchases of plant at more than $5,000. The impact of that is likely to be positive for council, in that is this right, Brett? That the expectation around after-sales support for a lot of our small mowers, essentially.
But it's generally mowers that we're talking about, that we do get that support.
What likely impact is that to have on there's probably two suppliers of them things, locally? Is it likely to cut them out, or is it likely to drive them to, are we talking considerable numbers of plant? Are they likely to say, well, we're going to have to provide it if we want to, or are they just likely to not bother?
I don't think there's been many purchases locally anyway for this.
The current threshold's 15,000, isn't it?
Was increased to 15. So the last one was it a fertiliser spreader or Jenny at the race course where we couldn't get parts?
Yeah,
So all the local can still supply it, but they just have to provide where we get sales support from, just to give us that contact to be able to get support if
They're the one who has to facilitate it, not
That's right,
his
yeah.
phone number you ring about. Alright, so we're aware of that. And then the big change. Sorry, Councillor,
At the
please.
bottom of that page
4.
the bottom of that page 4, the 6 months. Plant hire contracts will be issued where there is ongoing work. The approved 6 months at a time. Isn't that changed? I thought it was only 3 months or until the end of the job.
It was 3 months, Mr Mayor, but at the June, when we looked at this in June, council said increase it to 6 months.
With the 4 of us said that should be 6.
Yeah, so that's another.
So what what they've highlighted here in yellow is things that have been additional changes since our last agreed review.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a change, sorry, not all changes to the policy have been highlighted, it's things that the officers are flagging that has subsequently been changed since we last provided feedback.
Yeah, we discussed that. We discussed that because some of us said until the end of the job, and then some said until the end of that job, whether it's 2 months or 6 months or 12 months until the end of the job, and then some said we'll give it a timeline. And it's got either or there, and ongoing multiple work on multiple jobs. When you look at that, it says multiple jobs. That means that you could sign some person up, sign a contractor up for 6 months, and he can just go from job number to job number to job number.
Correct. Part of the reason for that is that you can look at it the two ways. The one here, they become a contractor, an employee wearing a contractor's shirt. The second one is where you might be doing a road construction job, an RMPC job, and a bit of flood damage all at the same time. So say you've got a dry hired grader on a road, on a hired for a TMR job, and it might be the third or fourth grader on the job, and there's a side road or a unrelated job, there's a bit of shoulder maintenance that needs doing, so that grader could be sent off to do the RMPC work, or there's a property access road there that needs a touch up or a bit of flood damage work, that grader could be sent off to do that without having to recall via vendor panel for a job that might only be 7 or 8 hours grading.
Yeah.
And it can, but technically, if it's hired, booked to an individual job number, which would be the TMR construction job, for example, it technically wouldn't conform with the policy for that machine to go off onto an RMPC or a road access or a... So there certainly is the reverse view of that though, Councillor Gleeson, where if the policy was not... I would suggest that what I've just said is the intent of the policy, but if it was to be interpreted and used incorrectly, where say a water truck might be just engaged at the beginning of period and then shifted from flood damage job to reconstruction job to maintenance job without having to recall, that would not be within the spirit of what I would suggest this policy is about. That's to simplify using a grader or a piece of plant whose specific purpose is job A, but B and C can happen if need be. Whereas if we're engaging, if the policy's being interpreted to use it to just pull on a contractor on a full-time basis and just randomly shift them around, I wouldn't suggest that's what it's for. Councillor Hanson.
No, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, Mr. Mayor. Is there, as long as we have a way of keeping that under control, you know what I mean?
Well, I think conversations like what we've just had, because you can draft a policy, and unless you want it to run like a piece of state government legislation into the thousands of words, it's very difficult to encapsulate every scenario. But I think we've given 2 clear examples of what our intent with this policy is, that it's not to be used for simply keeping a contractor on the books full time. It's to be used to be advantageous for a variety of jobs that might arise after or during the purpose for the engagement. I think if we give that supporting advice to officers, it's not written there, but subsequently when we do undertake a review of this in 12 months, if we find that it hasn't been used in that intent, we can then move to abolish it for a start and say that they're only engaged for the length of the job and they can't work on anything else, which makes it very difficult for officers. So let's just keep an eye on that, perhaps.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Without having it all written down like that though, does it leave the offices open for complaints by other contractors regarding, like thinking that they might be favouring someone else over someone else? Like, I don't know. Yeah. As long as it's not leaving our officers at risk.
I think they drafted that, so Brett.
It's about managing it, and if the result is not what council expected, then council can tighten the policy to reflect that.
It's like the local use policy, who you engage. I mean, council have been clear in the past, now they're perhaps going to move over the page a little bit differently, but the conversations around the adoption of this, I'm comfortable that there's enough there to protect officers. Councillor Rogers?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah.
I'm comfortable too, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to bring it there, and we're in open session, so I'll put it out there so everybody can see what we discussed. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't just randomly choose those two pieces of plant either, Councillor Gleeson, for the same reason we're in open session.
Thank you.
Okay. The single biggest change to our procurement policy in probably 3 years is now on page 6. It deals with the introduction of the smaller value category with a significantly increased weighting, and the abolition of the weighting for those high-end, high-value, should I call it, goods or services procurement. When these policies are developed, this appendix in fact is actually titled The Development of Competitive Local Business and Industry. There is a substantial percentage of our annual spend fits into the bottom end of, on an individual basis, the bottom end of this, so in the under $200,000 values. And that's where the majority of support for our local businesses comes. And allows those people on smaller cost items to present a truer price comparison over a big wholesaler with a seriously competitive freight quote who could just dump tyres, batteries, oil, etc. into our communities and wipe our smaller suppliers of those consumable items out. They also come when you weight that. That's a low. A high weighting there actually has a lower net value to council on an individual basis. However, if you award 6% to $1 million to $3 million contract, you could be giving away a very hefty sum of money, and not actually developing a competitive local industry, because you're giving them several $100,000 leeway over businesses that don't fit our definition of local. So if you're not a local business, you get no weighting at all. That's what any value contract Cat 0 means. So there's never at any value, any stage, a weighting for price. The new line of 0 to 20,000, the proposal is 15%. 20 to 200,000, which is a change, was 50, is a weighting of 8%, right through to 200,000, which has halved that old, or less than half, sorry, the old category of 50 to 500,000, which was 10%. At 200,000, that lines up with our bringing the tenders back to council, bringing the decision back to council. So they're effectively, the weighting becomes irrelevant, even though it's provided to you on tenders above that anyway, because council can move to not accept the weighting in its assessment. So the tenders can come to us, assess, here's a local weighting, this is what it means, this is what the value of price. But if council on those big ones wants to think, no, there's too much money there, we're not going to accept any weighting, it gives its reasons in the tender decision. So I think that the key area to look at here are those first two categories, because this will be applied without input from council. Those weightings don't, the decisions around procurement in those categories are performed by officers. Then in the next category, for those over 200,000 to the value of $1 million, there's a weighting applied of 4%, but once again, council would reserve the right to not accept that anyway on each decision, potentially with some risk, mainly reputational, but and then over $1 million, there'd be no weighting applied whatsoever. It's just free open market. So I'm just wonder what councillors' thoughts about that is.
I'm more than happy with
Through
that.
you, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to, with the new figures, you know, considering that we are really trying to be more sustainable and more efficient, cost efficient across the board. So, yeah, I'm happy with those.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Councillor Gleeson.
Yeah, more than happy with the new figures, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, I'm happy with the new figures, Mr Mayor.
Very good. What about any other questions about any other section?
Mr Mayor, we move this valid for 12 months period?
Well, it's valid until we amend it, but we are expected to review it every 12 months.
I'm sorry, yeah, we review every 12.
It never lapses, but there's an expectation that we'll review it annually.
Okay.
We can review it more than that.
If need be, but yeah, for 12 months. Okay.
And as I say, that any decision of a tender or a procurement that exceeds 200,000, we can drop the weighting at any decision. Like we can give effect to a change to this policy at every single meeting if we wanted to in that respect.
I'm just looking, Mr Mayor, at the history, just looking at, say, 18 months, there were 12 purchases between 200 and a million. And they all, sorry, not all. One was Hastings Dairy, which is a plant item, which there's no locals involved. 2 are for bitumen, which, yeah, the others are local businesses. So really, we haven't had to apply that percentage in the decision making anyway, in that period. Well, I know we have in the previous council, where council overrode or overrode the weighting. I think that's only happened
I can think of twice.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Once we've been over, in my memory, we've gone both ways with it. One time the local weighting still didn't give the local the job and we elected to go that way, and the other time it did and we elected not to. All right, if we haven't got any more questions, the revised policy as presented with those 2 amendments, chiefly regarding the $1,000 threshold, that appears on page 6 and page 3. We're changing the figure of 500 to 1,000. Can I have somebody please move that we adopt the revised policy with those additional revisions?
Melinda.
Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Seconded, Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? 4-0. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, officers. Right, we can bring back in the 3 amigos. (338). This is one resolution for the supply of 2 traded Caterpillar graders. The 2 new with a trade incorporated and the price is included. I won't go straight to resolution. Just feedback or comments, please. The report says that it outlines why we're only looking at 2. So 1 supplier. those of you trying to find it, it's because Komatsu is not registered with local buy, and John Deere didn't bother to submit.
They're a week late.
They didn't conform with the tender.
John Deere didn't.
Well, they were a week late with their inquiry, weren't they? They didn't bother to actually send in anything late. They rang up to see if it was okay to be late. Yep. So we're replacing effectively like for like with a budget saving of 75,000. That would be chiefly on the basis of the improved trade, would be my advice. That's the way I interpret that. Although they are a little bit cheaper to buy too, sorry. But
They're cheaper than the last grader.
Through you, Mr Mayor, which I find a little odd considering that.
everything else has got bigger.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get hold of plant and equipment, but happy to take the pricing.
No questions? Motion? Someone to move? Councillor Gleeson moves, seconded. Councillor Plum, sorry, you did have your hand up first. Debate? There being none, I put it to the vote. Those in favour? 7-0. Roller.
Mr Mayor, we have two quotes for a new roller as per the budget. We currently have cat rollers in the fleet. Officers are recommending that we continue that for consistency.
Councillors, your thoughts?
Mr Mayor, the Hastings Engineering's roller that was purchased earlier and broke down, took a long time to repair, but that wasn't, is that all over and above board with the Hastings Engineering, like with the backup service with that particular vehicle, or was it fault of operators, or was it fault of Hastings Engineering, to the best of your knowledge?
Mr Mayor, that was a warranty claim, so we had to go through that process. There was a dispute over whether it was caused by an operator or whether it was a machine fault. But Hastings did fix it under warranty.
Thank you.
We had some discussion during budget time about whether we were going to buy rollers or high rollers.
We did, and we elected to buy.
Right. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Hence why it's still in the budget.
Mr Mayor, the discussion was that we, I think
Couldn't
the
buy them.
resolution was that we have two at least two crews in each area of a grader, roller and water truck. And equipment, then anything in surplus to that was hired.
The other problem we had at the moment with the construction demand is we just simply can't source the rollers that were required that are heavy enough. Queensland rollers and others just couldn't get them to us. Buying it was the only way to guarantee it. So are we going BOMAG or are we going CAP?
Through you, Mr Mayor, do we have potential trade figures at the end of the term of those lot? Like the Caterpillar is best part of $11,000 worse off for us, but at the end of the life of it, would we expect to get more money back on the CAT over the BOMAC?
Not disputing your figures, but I am. Be more like 9,000, wouldn't it?
Oh, sorry, we're 11,000 over budget.
Over budget.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Corrected, yes.
Yeah. What is that likelihood? Is the cat rollers hold their resale value like say cat graders? It clearly do.
Mr Mayor, I think we hold on to our rollers for basically forever once you've got them there. They're there
Just keep fixing them.
until they wear out.
What do we get the best run out of, Black?
Excuse me? Sorry, through the
What do we get the best run out of?
It's not usually what we get the best run out of, it's best service and things that break down. I've used CAT most of my life, I've had other rollers, and what I've found the issue with is because we're so far away from everything, they may not supply the same type of service for us. If it's any other one that may not be as close.
Have you used BOMAC?
Yeah. BOMAC, a few of the rental places do have BOMAC because they're cheaper roller to put on the market, but the problem is over here trying to get rollers, and I've been in the middle of that, trying to get rollers and getting them on time with waiting time and stuff like that, so yeah. If we keep to the same type, the maintenance issues are a lot easier to manage. And if you've got your graders and other machinery of the same brand, the mechanic can hop off from one and go to the other if there's an issue. Especially if we're out of the way and we don't use our mechanic if full, becomes a warranty issue or something like that. While he's out here, there might be a problem with the new grader, something lights going on or something like that. They can always come and have a look at that as well at the same time. It's just easier to manage.
Is there anywhere in this material, just help me officers, that gives the warranty information for CAT? Because I note with the BOMAG that the pricing we're working on doesn't extend to telematics, which the CAT one does include, and doesn't extend to extended powertrain warranty, either standard or premier. I'm just trying to see if we have got a light comparison for CAT.
The CAT warranty on the BOMAG warranty.
Well, I know what the BOMAG warranty is. It's not included. But is the CAT warranty included, or is it an additional extra that isn't included in that pricing?
Equipment protection plan, 12 months, 100 hours.
No, it's not in there.
Oh, sorry. So I haven't given you, because the whole document's 60 pages long.
So what hours
Sorry.
is included in that pricing?
So it's, the standard is 12-month unlimited hours from the date of delivery.
Mm-hmm. What's the optional?
And then the extended protection plan is 84 months or 4,000 hours for the powertrain and hydraulics.
Mm-hmm. And what value is that?
There's no.
Is 5 years 84 months? Somebody better at maths than me?
5 years,
How long?
60 months.
60 months.
5 to 60.
So straight away, there's a difference.
while you're looking at that, Mr Mayor, is there a difference, a very much difference in the delivery between the two vehicles?
Time frame, you mean?
Yeah.
So the CAT machine includes HD Advantage, which is the after-sales service program, proactive monitoring, machine maintenance and health issues throughout warranty.
The CAT is 8 to 10 weeks purchase order.
There's no telematics in that other one.
What was the 60-month shipping on this, and what was that?
84 months, so 84 months, 4,000 hours is hydraulics and powertrain warranty is the extra option for CAT. We're just waiting on a figure. And the extra warranty for the BOMAG is 5 years, 3,000 hours, but that is only powertrain, doesn't include, well, depending on the option you take, it doesn't include electric or hydraulics.
So I'm looking at something here that's got 36 months for BOMAG.
That's what's standard.
So they're a December delivery. So both probably
About the same.
similar.
Mr Mayor, I'm probably happy to go with the officer's recommendation of sticking to consistency with CAT and
I'm just looking because that probably makes a difference to our figures though when we sort out that warranty. It's not included on either one. Well, 36 months is included on the BOMAG, but once again doesn't necessarily include everything. Anyway, I'm the same though, I'm happy to go with the officer's recommendation. I'm just trying to get all the information together there for you. Anyone wish to propose an alternative to Councillor Peoples's? All right, Councillor Peoples moves that we accept the quote from Hastings for supply and delivery. I'd like to, councillors, what's your thoughts on that warranty? Like 12 months as opposed to 5 years, is it? What did I say? 84 months is 6 years.
7 years actually.
7 years.
For a piece of land, if we intend to own for that long or longer.
12 months unlimited hours or 4,000. If we put the quote at 200,000 in there, it excludes enough money to allow that extended warranty purchase. That's my concern here. That's why I haven't just jumped straight at the officer's recommendation.
right. So the BOMAG is 84, or how many hours?
No. The extended warranty option for Caterpillar is 84 months or 4,000 hours,
Yeah.
full electronics and full powertrain and hydraulics. But we don't know its price. So we're all in agreement to go Cat, but I don't know what the price of that extended warranty is because it's not detailed. At a if the councillors were comfortable with the value of it, then you may wish to amend that resolution to include enough money. Because once we lock them to 200,000, then they've got no authority to go any higher. I don't think it. I would suggest it's going to make it even more attractive than the BOMAG with the like warranty. Knowing my understanding of Cat warranty is it's actually quite affordable. The extra money is certainly justified, but like in this case, if you can't get an equivalent with BOMAG for a start, and the closest to it's going to cost you an extra 6,700.
The other thing the CAT does is the monitoring of the plant.
Whilst it's within warranty, which is it's free. Their telematic service is free in warranty, whereas BOMAG's is an additional 3,300. So that's another reason why I'm thinking 12 months is a little short for us to get free monitoring.
So, does this happen with the graders as well, or just with the rollers?
Which part of it, sorry?
The warranty, right?
So,
I didn't ask.
sorry,
Very good
Mr.
point.
Mayor, and I don't know whether I've included this. So the 4,000 hours,
Yep.
was that included in the report?
Nope.
So as a special consideration to Barcaldine Regional Council, travel charges will be covered by Hastings Dairy from the Emerald branch to the depot, Barcaldine Depot, during the initial 4,000 hours, 84 months period from date of delivery.
So they've quoted it on their warranty that they've included is 4,000 hours, 84 months.
That's what it seems to state.
Okay, so that adjusts, councillors. I'll come back to your question on the graders in a minute because it's very relevant. I can't believe we haven't picked up on it already, but that actually changes the comparative analysis for me. Because then to try and line that up, we would need to add to the BOMAG purchase price an additional $10,016. So that actually makes the Caterpillar machine cheaper. Councillor Arthur, would that roughly line up in your mind? If we added the telematics at 3,300 and the closest warranty they offer is 5 year, 3,000 hours, at 6,716, we'd be looking at an additional $10,016 for what's included in the Cat purchase price.
Plus we have the added saving of fleet management and
Travel.
user operation, plus travel.
Mm. None of this is designed to circumvent your attempted resolution, Council. I just want to make sure that we're approving a sum of money that is sufficient for what's required.
I understand, Mr. Mayor.
You're happy that that's legitimately quoted, right? So that resolution has been moved by Councillor Peoples. We have a seconder, Councillor Hanson. All those in favour? 7-0. We may need to do something here procedurally. Can we just check the graders, please? That they have the same hours. Definitely want more than 12 months warranty there.
I think that was 300.
It refers, through you, Mr. Mayor, it refers again to the HD Advantage, which I think is 3-year standard for earth moving, new earth moving equipment.
Same clauses, right. The standard warranty for 12 months, and the extended coverage will apply for an additional 60 months or 6,000 machine hours.
6,000 hours or 60 months, well, it'll be 6,000 hours, I would imagine. 60 months is 5 years, is that right? Most of those graders average between 12, it'll be close either way, about 1250 hours a year. The highest 5 performing graders do anyway, they average that. One of these is not going into that area, but so that's in that purchase price. So the resolution we've moved for 338 of 473,200 was for those 2 machines, including the trade and including an extended warranty of 6,000 hours or 60 months. And actually, credit to all of the people in our council workforce who've obviously worked over a long period of time to develop a very good relationship with Hastings Deering, because not only the terms of trade, the purchase price, but the extended warranty options there are extremely significant and very much financially rewarding to council. Of course, you hope that you're not using warranty, but in the event that you do need it, you want to be used it. So very good. Thank you, Councillor Peoples, for that, and Councillor Plum. Right, 3310. Okay, once again, a change. This is a proposed change from our fleet utilisation. Thoughts, councillors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor.
Am I incorrect in saying that all our work vehicles are Toyotas? We have. I don't know. I can't think of another vehicle other than a Toyota.
No, I can't either.
Not throw my word further me.
No.
Toyota's got a better resale value, and we've got Toyotas, so that's my thoughts.
How many of these sort of vehicles have we got, sort of like Strados and Traymax, and when we have 30, 40?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I've got a list of all the minor plant that was given to me about 4 weeks ago. I just haven't had a chance to go through it. There's quite a lot of Prados.
Can I just get a rough figure? I'm just going to do a calculation here, that's all. Would we have 30?
We've got
At least.
a bit more. We've got 12 Prados.
40?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just looking if we got sort of, I don't know, let's say 8,000, and you've got 40 vehicles. If you bought Isuzu on that trading, we'd probably say 320,000.
And Mr. Mayor, I suppose this recommendation is to, I suppose, a test case to see how it works out. It's only one vehicle, but to see, well, we try it with one vehicle. If it doesn't work out, well, we can go back to the Toyota fleet. If it, let's see what the costs are and what the trade is at the end.
Through you, Mayor.
Listening.
The reason that I've list is to make sure that to ensure that we've got vehicles fit for purpose. And some of the utes may not be fit for purpose, and you may need a gang truck or something like that. So that's something that is being looked at to ensure that they are fit for purpose and not just, we're buying dual cab because it's safe to buy it. So yeah.
Councillor Gleeson.
In saying that, Isuzu do make from here to here. They make two-wheel drive motor cars to 500 horsepower by move. So if we did feel as though that we wanted to change, the whole fleet could change, whereas a Toyota, they can't change, it's just Toyota motor cars.
And Hino trucks, if you wanted to be pedantic, but yeah, you're right.
And I think there are a couple of councils that have already tried gone to Isuzu, and I think they're quite okay with their change.
Well, they're very highly rated safety-wise, and I was involved in the extraction of a person from one of these last Wednesday night. They're not a Chinese-made heap of rubbish. The driver should have been killed in that car, and how the hell that car held together, I've no idea, but all the safety devices right round it went off. Definitely saved his life. So I don't think, it's not like we're switching to a Mahindra or a substandard piece of equipment. Isuzu, I would consider them probably on the next tier in terms of serviceability and operability from Toyota. This particular plant will be going in the report to Muttaburra, so we'll get a pretty thorough evaluation of both, running around town streets, bitumen roads, and some pretty ordinary Shire and TMR roads. So, although I would hope they're not going to stay in that condition, but they are currently. I'd support the trial here, and in fact I'd probably support it with the opportunity to trial it in a few different locations, just to get a handle on it, because as you said, Councillor Peebles, very rough figures that you did there, but there could be a substantial saving to us if that was. One other thing about these quotes, I've talked many times before about the council tax, and clearly Hastings don't do this. Clearly they don't do this, but a lot of suppliers, if they feel that council's not going to net, what incentive is there for us to give us their best price? If we indicate to the market that we're prepared to accept value for money propositions, we may even elect better deals out of future Toyota trades than we're currently getting, perhaps. So, because we've sort of gone into this fixation, for good or bad reasons, so I'm not commenting negatively about it, but we've become very fixated on all white plant being Toyota. The Toyota dealerships that bother to respond need not necessarily be as competitive as they would be if they knew that there's a chance somebody down the road with a different badge on the bonnet might be going to get the job. I'm not ignorant to the fact that it does mean carrying different parts. Mechanics will have to become slightly aware of the nuances between brand manufacturers. I can't see how one-off that would hurt myself.
Mr Mayor, if you're willing to move on, I'll move the recommendation.
I just want to go back to Councillor Gleeson. Though you expressed some concern. Have you?
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at there's on both sides of the fence. I own two Hiluxes. Isuzu's, we get along really well with them. I was just thinking of the resale value, but then on the other hand, the change could be good. It may, as you say, it may, if we do this a couple of times, it may ask them to get the Toyota people to sharpen their pencil. But before I go any further, the other question is the tender. The tender goes out to everybody in Queensland, I think.
Or anybody who's registered on local buy, but that's most brands.
So it goes on local buy, which goes to all the manufacturers, and then they pass it down to their dealers within the area. So it depends how their dealer arrangement is. It may be that, if they have an exclusive area, they only pass it to that dealer that deals with this particular area.
So if it goes, a dealer in Mount Isa can land a vehicle here cheaper than a dealer in Brisbane. But anyway, thank you.
Well, he may be the rep for this area, the dealer for this area. I don't know how Isuzu works.
It's just like the difference in Volvo trucks at Alpha, you fill within Rockhampton, and Barcaldine you fall within Toowoomba. Like there's a little imaginary line between here on postcodes, and they divide their zones up. So Isuzu could well be the same. All right. Anyone else?
Which unfortunately for us, Mr Mayor, doesn't give us a wider range of, regardless of brand, their dealerships competing to give us the best price.
That's right. There is an Isuzu dealer in Emerald. That's why surprised as Councillor Gleeson is that we got our eyes a quote, not a. Anyway, does anyone wish to oppose the Councillor Peebles has moved? Is there a seconder? Hanson, is there? Sorry, Councillor Rogers, I got you there. Is there anyone wish to speak against the Isuzu purchase?
Can I just ask a question? This vehicle, is it going to be in town, out of town, around town?
All places in
Not a
between.
gardener?
It's the town, it's the crew car for Mutteborough. They only have one, from memory. Is that right?
No, they have about 3 cars. Single cabs, that's a dual cab.
Yeah, there's only one dual cab. Yeah.
Nick Large.
I think it's a great opportunity.
I think you said they had 3 dual cabs. I'm like, what, 4? Right. Those in favour? Carry. 7-0. Three, 11.
Mr Mayor, the Building Our Regions program applications will open again. This time they're focusing on water and sewerage funding. So we're divided into different categories, which enables us to get up to 100% funding for a water and sewerage project. So we do have a few projects in the pipeline, but due to the Department of Environment and Science issuing us non-compliance notices about discharging into the environment, I'm recommending that we apply for the Yarramac sewage treatment plant upgrade.
Could I suggest here, just before we go there, just from a procedural point, or like a practical point of view, we're going for 100%, but we've already allocated money for SCADA and telemetry. Now, there's not a lot of that required sewage treatment plant, perhaps, but there will be some. So we've allocated that money in effort to put an application in that could be viewed more favourably. Could that be our contribution so that we're not looking like we're asking for 100%? Like if when we put this application in, we say, well, we've committed to a council-wide upgrade of SCADA and telemetry, we would consider that our contribution, come up with a nominal figure of what that might be, and that then lowers the buy ask from 100% to whatever.
So Mr Mayor, I'm suggesting that if council gives in principle approval today, that we come back to council with the actual detailed resolution of what our contribution will be. So it's a 2-stage process. We do an expression of interest, and then if we can get through that stage, then you've got to do the detailed application. So probably at the November meeting of council, we'd approve the detailed, the amount of the co-contribution.
I just, sorry, didn't mean to whisper then. Just mentioned Savatra Ramachandran, who presented to you yesterday, is one of 2 leads within LGAQ on water and sewage policy, and was instrumental in getting that program chaperoned through government. So we may be able to use her expertise in even just a high level look at our application
And that project for councillors, just to refresh your memory, would be basically a replica.
To replicate
The Barcaldine project. So that is upgrading the sewage treatment plant, putting a wastewater pipeline, but we'd go across the road, go across the Mudabee Road to one of those paddocks across the road, and we'd have to use that water then for some sort of cropping. So potentially earn an income as well.
Bananas.
Oh,
Probably lucid.
what about horses?
Yep.
I would like to move this, please. Debbie? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hanson. Debate? Only thing I'll say is I think it's a logical progression. It's an identified project. For some reason, we all allowed it to just fall out of our forward. If you look at our budget papers in years 2 and 3, this was clearly identified. I think because we didn't have figures. I don't know why, but anyway, we've all allowed it to fall out of our forward schedule of works, but we know that it needs to happen and it should have been in there. Within what this funding round is for, I would call it a scheme or a stream, but Brett would call it a grant program. There's not really any other demand within our council area that fits within this in terms of a needs basis. We've clearly got some issues with water treatment facilities that may require upgrades in Alpha and Jericho in time, but they're A, not identified, and B, the potential for economic development in the immediacy there may supplement our funding for that anyway. This is a compliance issue, but it's also a potential revenue source or a town beatification scheme or a combination of both. So it's very good. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? 7-0. So, Matt, sorry to put you to sleep with all that plant procurement, but you've got to write the bills out for that, so at least you know where you're going to send the cheques for the plant. All that cash at bank that you've been so safely guarding for the last few months, we've just successfully spent quite a sum of it. Can I have somebody move, first of all, that we received the report? Councillor Gleeson, Councillor Plum, seconds. I'm just trying to give Councillor Rogers a chance to put a hand up, but it didn't happen. Those in favour? Carried 7-0. So, Mad, I note council sustainability section has been amended. Would you like to just...
We have added in the leave liabilities as well, which is long service leaves and annual leaves. Overall sums up to be about 3.1 million liability at this stage, which brings us to 3 months sustainability with existing cash balance and no further income.
Councillors, I just wanted Samad to point that out, because you may recall in our last agenda we had a 6 month, or 4, was it? Sorry, whatever.
About 5 months.
Yeah, so it was more than that, but we didn't have an allowance for or a discount applied, or the figures weren't reduced to accommodate leave liabilities. So we haven't slipped off the edge of the cliff. We're not 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot on a banana peel, but that has been a noticeable change in that payment period on the basis that we're now including more liabilities than we did, because that is, as Brett pointed out yesterday at Ingview, that is a substantial amount of money that's growing. COVID's continuing to contribute to the growth of that when people can't holiday, including the acting CEO. And so I think it's a very important figure, and I think to demonstrate to the workforce that we're very cognizant of their entitlements, to recognise monthly that figure shows our diligence in monitoring end of month financial statements. So that bottom box there underneath cash balances, in my opinion, my personal opinion, interrogating these figures, is the clearest and simplest interpretation our financial statements have ever given us. Now, other councillors may wish to see more in future, but that there underpins the immediacy of it. So thank you very much. It's very good. Right, would you like to lead us through anything else in the report before I ask about rates?
We will try to look into that flood damage grants that we might have expanded that 9.1 million which we received for 2019. But QRA is getting out this week or the week next week, so they'll give us a clear. Well,
So that's the
what we will be having as a total fund, and then we'll work through that to see where we are with that funding.
so that's the 9,128,868.
Yeah,
You think we may have possibly expended that?
we would have. Yeah.
We would have. So we could be starting to get to the point where we need to claim for works that we're. Is it?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. But Mr. Mayor, we have to still have an absolute figure there, which was about 8 million at the end of the year, 30th June 2021. So we would have spent that.
Okay, very good.
The issue is because we're under 3 years of flood damage on top of each other. It's then how QRA, because the same road's washed out 3 times. Do they count that as 2019 flood damage, or is it 2020, or is it 2021? So how do we divide that damage up between the 3 different years, and what's it allocated to?
And really, when you think about this, if you get in and get the work done, it's done and washed away again, you get
So next year's maintenance out of the same.
you get it again next year if you get in and get the work done quickly.
Well, Councillor Peebles, that's my argument around betterment. Has always been my argument about QRA or the federal government or whoever not allowing councils to undertake betterment out of their own savings. Like, we put all our savings back into a betterment pool and then people bid for it, and the money that we don't spend could end up on the Cassowary coast or Ipswich Highway or wherever. If excess money was allowed to be retained in the local government area where the disaster occurred and went into a hierarchy of areas, so we would know, and GBA would be very quickly able to give us a map of the most affected chainage of road.
Yeah.
In a hierarchical order, from which, like, there'd be a section every single event that gets damaged, but all we do is restore it back to the way it was. We don't get money for betterment. If we applied our any excess funding that was available to each of them in a piecemeal approach, we could improve the road to the point where it might be a bit of seal, it might be a concrete floodway, it could be lifted 400 mil, it might be put pipes through it, it would take a very long time to knock all that off because we seldom have very much money left. But where we do realise savings, we should be able to return that in the form of betterment, and we improve the government's need to contribute. As we've just said, there's several chainage of road, 3 successive wet seasons, and if we get anything like a 4th one, we're going to get 4 of them. Whereas for a small sum of that money, we would have improved the road and wouldn't have to do it. So it's a frustrating position every time I talk to QRA and to the feds about it, but that's just too realistic. That's just too common sense. You can't convince government to accept common sense. Because QRA's, or the federal government's methodology around NDRAA is not around betterment. It is around restoring the condition of an asset to the exact same condition as it was pre-disaster, which I understand, but I've got a question that I really want to keep following for some time until my concerns are. I just want to draw your attention to the rates assessment on page 214. If you note the 1-year rates, there is 136 individual assessments there. That has lowered marginally from August, where it was 147. The average rate there is around $1,500, so it's predominantly town rate. And the other one to note is the 2-year rate, which is lowered from 65 assessments in August outstanding to 61 now at the September meeting. And I do note the work officers have undertaken, historically these figures have been higher than this. We have been up to 800,000 in rates in arrears, but I just don't want to get us into a situation where we get complacent about the number of those people that then when they get out to 3 years, they somewhat lose control of their own destiny. And there's 60 odd rates notices there getting closer by the minute to, with that number appears relatively static to me, just on a 2-month assessment, and there's certainly the 1 year. So I'm only marginally concerned about the amount of money, but I am very concerned that, you know, our rates have gone up this year. If they're struggling to pay the old rates, how does this get added to when we get 6 or 8 months further down the track? And if they're not paying rates from 1 and 2 years ago, are we likely to see? So we've seen a more than double of the rates in arrears from 2 years to 1 year outstanding. What's going to happen from 1 to current when that drops 12 months? So I know we can't answer it today, and there's, but I just really, I don't know whether we establish a group within council. I know we're short-staffed like everybody else, but to really proactively work with these people to try and get them onto some sort of structured payment plan. Don't know, Jenny and Paula, while Brett's looking, you've got as much experience in this area as anyone. Are we being overtly, am I being overtly alarmed? Is it really a static number that I shouldn't be too worried about?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, every time we rate, they do get their first and letter arrears, letter to say that you're in arrears, and sometimes we attach a payment plan or a bit more information for them to try and organise a payment plan with us, but yeah. A fair bit of that would be just unoccupied land, I would imagine. It's not homes and that sort of thing that you're probably more concerned about.
Correct, I would be more concerned about that. Okay. Jenny?
I'm with Paula, she's been looking after Mr. Mayor for the last few years, so yeah, I agree that some of it is, and some of it is that land we're trying to sort out with Sardine and those, which is...
Yeah, they're the ones down in the 5 year plus.
And you are called.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably not concerned about anything 4 years or more, because there's a lot of that, as you say, unoccupied land, and really once it's got that far, it's beyond our ability to intercede. But at 12 months, yeah, as I say, it is a substantial amount of money. It's a couple $100,000, but I'm more worried about probably the most difficult job councillors do is when we move a resolution to sell somebody up for rates in arrears, and it's, yeah, it is different if it's vacant land or an unoccupied dwelling. I totally agree. I won't drag the meeting out talking about it too much. What I will do is ask that we just keep an eye on the trend of the movement of those assessments, especially when they go from 1 year to 2, as that's just gone from current to 1 year because we've just issued the rates. As we're getting close to the back end of each reporting here, I'd really like to just see that we, where possible, especially for affected residential dwellings, but we have to afford the same opportunity to everybody else, we just, you know, like a contribution from them to me is enough. I mean, they're meeting in a little bit better than interest what it would cost them. I personally am thinking that they're showing legitimate interest in paying their rates. I just don't want to see us grow back to 800,000 again, because there's been a hell of a lot of good work from council staff to get that down. And the changed rate structure that we've just put in, I'm aware, is going to cause some budgetary pressures for families as it is. Other questions, please, councillors? I've monopolised the whole financial report, sorry. Councillor Rogers, do you have some questions for Samad relating to finance? I've got you for the first time today, you're on mute.
Sorry, there was an aeroplane. No, I don't have any questions, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Peoples,
Good, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Gleeson,
Thank you.
Hanson,
Good, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Arthur.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So that $3 million with, or just over 3 million in entitlements, roughly equates to 3 months. We're about $1 million a month for wages, aren't we? 900,000, something like that. Yeah, right. So if the world was coming to an end, workers would have, on average, 3 months there.
With a 3 months pay
Yeah.
and then entitlements, which
Yeah.
if they,
Took the entitlements as averse to pay, there's a...
and they wouldn't be fairly distributed
No.
either, Councillor
But
Arthur. There'd be some,
on a very,
on
very rough
a
average.
rudimentary average, it'd be roughly 3 months.
Yeah, right.
I'd suggest there'd be some with almost no leave entitlements
Yeah.
on, and there'd be others that have put substantial leave balances. Officers, would that be right?
And plus, if everyone took leave for the 3 months, we would not do anything as council.
Yeah, I'd suggest the median could be as low as a month.
Yeah.
The median.
But if just say a COVID event of something like COVID that we had to shut down, literally just close our doors for 3 months, well, that's what we're looking at,
Yeah.
sort of a disaster scenario.
Yeah.
We could still pay.
We would have the money to pay them and still have money on top and even continue to pay staff to stay at home if need
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, I know, that's right.
You're good, Councillor Plum. Very good. Nothing else, Simon?
For this report.
Well, thank you. I, once again, on behalf of councillors, thank you for your continued efforts and work on presenting more and more information, or information in a way that helps us guide our future decisions.
Mr Mayor, I just mentioned that the auditors our books are being audited over the next 2 weeks, or from yesterday through to the end of next week. So Sarmad's busy dealing with the auditors at the moment.
God bless you, son.
Through you, Mr Mayor, he may well be appreciating that we have a council meeting today then.
Well, Monday I walked into the office and Brett said, I wasn't expecting you today because he had a leadership meeting and Sarmad was trying to deal with auditors and the Mayor was sitting down just wanting to have a cup of coffee with both of them, but it didn't work. So they were very busy. Okay, project progress report. Can I, did I not move to finance? I think I did. Yes.
No, Councillor Peoples has a...
Councillor Peoples, can you remind me of what your conflict relates, which project it relates to?
Water Street, probably.
Rec Park, maybe?
Rec Park too, probably.
The rec park.
Yeah. I think I
yeah,
was
the ski park.
ski park. I right in that.
All right.
Yeah.
Righto. Sarmad, anything to draw our attention to? I just got a question regarding the figure for flood damage rural roads rehab of 3.4 million. Is that just a guess or is that the prepaid amount? We haven't got that yet, have we?
The one for
21.
damage 2021. Yeah, it's we haven't got that amount as Mayor. It's just an estimate of what we will.
It's an estimate of the upfront payment or an estimate of the total?
Estimate of the total for that year.
So it's been revised substantially downwards.
Well, we have no basis for that calculation, so it's basically a token figure so that we do have something there in the report.
Oh, so this is actually not the total figure, that's just what you're intending to think you might do this year?
Well, it all has to be done this year.
Not 21.
21, sorry. So 21, the claim submission has to be in by the end of September for 21, so we will know for the next meeting.
So these figures are not the actual total amount there, because like if you look at 20, it was a $40 million job and we've only got 4,900,000 there. So that must be just the amount of work that it's expecting to happen this financial year. We're budgeting to do roughly, who knows how much.
Until QRO comes out, is it next week or?
Yeah.
Next week.
Next week.
We are really, it's a best guess at this stage.
Of works expected this year, not total
This
works.
is the budget for this year, yes.
Yeah,
This is only what's going to happen this year.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, apologies.
Sorry, yes.
So they're just frightened because they're a fraction of what we thought we were spending. Councillors, questions, please. Councillor Gleeson.
Mr Mayor, through you, Mr Mayor, Currajong Drive highway access, why would it have been overspent by $68,000?
That's a speed bump, isn't it?
I reckon. Was it something transferred from another job?
Mr. Mayor, this figures of what's the system, I can inquire for that. I guess I didn't go into what the detail of that figure was.
Okay. Question on notice, Councillor Gleeson. We'll get you the answer when we find out what it was.
Okay.
Councillors, will circulate the answer to that, the breakdown to that job out of session for you all. So it won't only be Councillor Gleeson, we'll get you all an answer for that. Cost centre 9311.
Mr Mayor, can I ask about the message boards? Is that a notice sent?
I beg your pardon?
The message boards, the lead signs,
Yes.
they're all up going, are they?
Yes. Yes, Mr Mayor.
We approved the variation there.
There was an increase.
Councillor Arthur?
Now, Mr Mayor, I'll reserve my questioning for next month after we get the quarterly sort of, because this is, well,
It's really
for all intents and purposes, it's a month behind.
6 weeks, yeah. Councillor Hanson?
No, I'm all good, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Gleeson?
Good thing.
Councillor Rogers?
I'm good, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Right, 343. Councillor Peoples needs to rejoin.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor,
Oh.
I just need a mover and second.
My apologies. Can I have somebody move that we receive the project progress report? Councillor Rogers, seconded Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? 6-0. Community Care Services Report. Oh, hang on. Can I have somebody move we receive the report, please? Councillor Peoples, Councillor Plum. Those in favour? 7-0. Anything to point out, Sarmat?
Mr. Mayor, within the community services area, it shows us profit at this stage, which is just because of the grant monies we've received in, for like home assist, we've received half of the grant, and NDI assist. Numbers are still strong there, the income and expenditure are both over the budget. So it might change over the months. We'll still have a positive year if it goes like this, what we're anticipating for this Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Further commentary, thoughts, questions? Three.
Lunch at 12:30.
That's what the lady said.
Righto, the time being 12:30, so mate, thank you very much for your presence prior to lunch. We will break for lunch and return with the works report.